What is up, everybody, and welcome to Weathering the Storm, an Orlando Storm podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Wolf. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and add me on the socials at Weathering the Storm Pod on Instagram and Orlando Storm Pod on X. Today, we're going to be looking into the three disbanded teams: the San Antonio Brahmas, the Michigan Panthers, and the Memphis Showboats. We're going to look into one player from each of those teams and see how they would fit with the Orlando Storm. Three players that I really like, that I've looked into and really liked what they've done on their respective teams. Also, we really just don't have a lot of information on how the three new teams, the Orlando Storm, Louisville Kings, and Columbus Aviators, are going to be constructed. I've heard a lot of people say that we're just going to relocate the old teams to the new locations. And I've also heard a lot of rumors about an expansion draft. So basically, I kind of went over in episode 1, but if you haven't saw that, then basically we take all the players that are currently on one of those that were on one of those three teams. We enter them into a draft pool, and then we just go through like a normal draft, but with only the three new teams. So they take turns selecting each player from that pool and then build up their rosters that way, rather than just a one-for-one swap of teams. And I kind of prefer the expansion draft. And in that sense, this video would kind of make a lot more sense. So like these would be three players that I would want the Orlando Storm to target in that draft. But either way, if it is a one-for-one swap, then at least one of these three players will be a player that I'll talk about and that we'll have a little more information on as Orlando Storm fans once they join the team. So, oh yeah, a little quick side note before we get into the content. Look, I finally got my hoodie. They sent it, came in the mail yesterday. So, still waiting for that official merch link to drop. Then I can maybe get myself a hat. I don't have to keep wearing these other hats, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. First, I just want to start with the most significant prospect, at least in my eyes. I think a lot of people already know a lot about him if you've kept up with the UFL at all. And that is the former UFL Offensive Player of the Year and League MVP, Bryce Perkins, quarterback for the Michigan Panthers. I guess we're just going to start with some background, and then we'll go from there into play style and stats and what he really brings to the table. But Bryce Perkins is from Queen Creek, Arizona. He attended Chandler High School. There he set the state of Arizona's completion percentage record was 74.6. He threw for 3,001 yards and 46 touchdowns in his senior year. After that, he went to Arizona State in 2015. He redshirted his first year, and then he was out for his entire second year. So really didn't play for 2015 or 2016, the first 2 years of his college career. After that, he transferred to Arizona Western Community College. He played there for a year, put up decent numbers. And then his college career really got started with Virginia, the University of Virginia, in 2018. There he completed 225 of 349 passes for a 64.5 completion percentage, threw for 2,680 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He also ran 212 times for 923 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also, in 2018, won the Dudley Award, which is rewarded to the best player in the state of Virginia. So this was his junior year, So his first year with Virginia, his second to last year of his college career. He followed up his junior year with 320 of 496 passes, also a 64.5 completion percentage, very consistent, but increased his total yards to 3,538. He threw for 22 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, so a slightly worse ratio. Less touchdowns, more interceptions in a senior year. But he also ran for ran 227 times for 769 yards and 11 touchdowns. So total touchdowns evened out to 33 for both years, but 12 interceptions in his second year at Virginia. And in this year, he won second team All ACC, and that would complete his 2019 season. After that, he would enter the 2020 NFL Draft, where he signed with the Los Angeles Rams as an undrafted free agent. There, he would stay on the practice squad for the entirety of the season, and he actually earned a Super Bowl ring with the Rams while he was on the practice squad. He was elevated to the active roster in 2022. He was on the active roster for 5 games and started in 1. In that 1 game he started, he did lose the game, and he threw for 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and also ran for 90 yards on 19 attempts. So as you can kind of see here, based on these stats, the rushing yards are a pretty critical factor to consider when you're adding up all of his stats. A true dual threat quarterback, and again, we'll kind of see that throughout his stat lines. The passing numbers are just kind of average, and the rushing numbers kind of help put that over the top. So after that, he signed with the Michigan Panthers in 2024. He played in 4 games in 2024. He really broke out that next year in 2025, this most recent season. In 2025, he completed 109 of 158 passes for about a 69% completion percentage, threw for 1,342 yards with 9 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He rushed 47 times for 269 yards and added up 5 more touchdowns rushing. So total 14 touchdowns, and that was tied for first among quarterbacks in the league. He did, even with those numbers, he still missed 3 games due to injury. So good numbers already, but he left some numbers on the table because he missed games due to injury. And he came away with the 2025, as I mentioned earlier, UFL Offensive Player of the Year and MVP. So, as you can kind of tell through the stats, we'll just get into his play style, strengths, and weaknesses. He's a true dual threat quarterback. Takes the safe throws, keeps the ball out of harm's way. That's why you kind of see them. The good touchdown interception ratios and relatively low interception numbers. He just takes what's there. Doesn't really try and push it too much. Doesn't take the risks. If it's a crowded throw, he's probably not going to take it. He's just going to try and tuck and run. He has shown poise in clutch situations. There are a number of comebacks that he's led, and even up until this last year, he's had some comebacks on his resume. Excellent at the RPO game, as you might expect. The quick passes, if it's there. If it's there, take the easy throw, and if it's not, tuck and run. That's kind of his whole game, so he's perfect for the RPO. He's great at escaping pressure. There's plenty of plays last season I watched where he has no business getting out of there, and he somehow turns a negative 10-yard play into a 20, 25-yard play or a touchdown. And he throws well under duress. Dude's in his face. It don't really matter. He can still make the throw. He stands in there and makes it. Still isn't going to make the stupid decisions, because if it's not there, it's not there. But if it's there and he has a dude in his face, he can still make it. But really the concerns to watch out for, he has a concerning injury history. Number of times he's missed several games due to injury, even last year. So it's a recurring problem, and it's something that you would have to consider with him. You probably want to invest in a decent backup, just because you can't really rely on him to finish a season without missing at least 1 game due to injury. He is scheme dependent. So again, I would say most quarterbacks are scheme dependent, but there are exceptions where they can kind of at least do decent in all schemes. But if you're trying to throw him into a scheme that's really just drop back and pass and throw him 50 times a game and doesn't really give him the option to run, then he probably wouldn't excel in that type of scheme. He needs some sort of run-heavy scheme where he can get out and put his legs to work alongside his passing game. He's not the type of quarterback you want to drop back 50 times and not let him run. He needs to run because he's a dual threat, and that's just what he is. So you'd need some read option, some read pass option, some quarterback run game in there just to balance out his game. And he's not a particularly elite passer. He's a good passer, but he's not like Tom Brady, Drew Brees level of accuracy. Like I said earlier, his high completion percentage is more so due to he takes what the defense gives him. And if it's a crowded throw, if it's a tightly contested throw, he's probably not going to try to fit it in there with his accuracy. He's just going to tuck it and run, or he's going to throw it away. So yeah, not super precise accuracy, but he mitigates that by just kind of avoiding those really difficult throws altogether. So obviously that can be a problem if the defense is playing lockdown and they're covering up everything super tight. You're probably not going to get a throw there. He's probably just going to tuck and run. He's not really going to try and push that too much. But yeah, really just to summarize, guys, Bryce Perkins, I really like his play. I really like his play style. He's a very dynamic, electric quarterback, exciting player to watch. Could definitely succeed in the right team, in the right situation. If we're kind of just piggybacking off of these last few videos I've made, I don't think he's a great fit for John Gruden. He's not a great fit for the West Coast offense. He could fit, but it's not a perfect fit. If we were to get John Gruden, I think he would need to change up the offense a little bit. Need to focus a little more on the quarterback run, implement that more into the offense, which typically isn't a big part of it. But either way, I really like his play, and I really like what he could bring to the table. I think it would be a huge win if the Orlando Storm could come away with him in some sort of expansion draft, or if we just took over the Michigan Panthers roster. Either way, he would be a massive addition to the team. But we would just kind of have to see how he would fit with the scheme and where we would go from there. But either way, would love to see him on the team. So next up, we're going to go to another player, obviously, that I really like, and that is Tavonte Beckett. Tavonte Beckett is from Chesapeake, Virginia. He is a linebacker. He started his college career at Virginia Tech, but then he transferred to Marshall, where he kind of had his breakout, where he kind of put himself on the map, right? So at Marshall, he was named Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year in 2020. After that, he was undrafted in the NFL, decided to sign with the San Antonio Brahmas. He led the UFL in tackles last year with 89, with 5 tackles for a loss. So we don't really go into a lot of stats or anything like that, but I will say a lot of the stuff that he brings to the table is stuff that the stat sheet don't really show. And we'll get into that now. And that's really his high motor and pursuit. He's known for, just being like a lightning bolt flying around that field. I mean, I didn't plan that, but that fits perfectly, right? A lightning bolt just storming side to side to the field at maximum energy. Again, that's perfect for, John Gruden's more offense, but just in terms of the energy, that's what John Gruden loves. So someone who's just flying around the field at full speed, making mistakes at full speed, doing everything at full speed. High motor and pursuit, very instinctive. Quickly reads the play, run, pass, and makes a decision and gets to it immediately. Common theme here, right? High energy player, high impact player. And on top of that, he's just a good leader of the locker room. He's kind of that guy, you see the team rallying around one dude who's the vocal leader, who's loud and outspoken. That's Tavonte Beckett. He's going to be that dude that's leading the huddle, before each play, leading the huddle before the game. Giving the motivational speech, what have you. He's that dude, and he sets that standard in the locker room. So strengths of Tavonte Beckett in terms of his play. He's excellent in run support and making the early reads. He's very durable, very consistent, not a lot of injury history to speak of there. Always had a lot of snaps during his time in the UFL. And he brings that experience and leadership value to a team like the Orlando Storm. He's already had experience in the UFL. He's not new to this. He knows what he's getting into, and he can bring that to this new team with new players. His weaknesses, he's kind of undersized for his position as a middle linebacker. He's 5'10" and 220. He has been knocked and scouting reports for relatively poor athleticism, but I think that can just be more so contributed to his size. And then he's not particularly strong in pass coverage. He's more known as a tackling linebacker, rushing to the ball and getting the tackles, not really dropping back in pass coverage. But I don't really put a lot of weight on that because in the modern NFL, most linebackers are kind of weak in pass coverage. It's just how modern football is. That's what offenses try to do, is expose linebackers, because that's just how it is. They're not a great matchup for a fast wide receiver, and they're not a good matchup for a tall, strong tight end. But he does not disprove, like, he is not the exceptions that he kind of falls in line. I don't think it's such a big deal. Like, it's just an absolute liability, but it is something to note. So, to summarize, Tavonte Beckett, I think he's a guy you want on your team, not to diminish his play, because his play is good, but you want him on your team because of the locker room. You want him on the team because of the energy and the character and the leadership that he brings to the team. Just an overall morale booster, and he can rally the troops and get them ready for battle, right? So, yeah, I would love to have him. I think he would be an amazing piece if we decide to draft him, or if we take over the San Antonio Brahmas roster. That's a player we should definitely watch out for and be happy if we get. And last but not least, we got the player from the Memphis Showboats, and that is Jonathon Adams, wide receiver. Played 4 years in college for Arkansas State. In his senior year of 2020, he recorded 1,111 yards with 12 touchdowns off of 79 catches. He won the Sun Belt Conference Offensive Player of the Year and earned first team All Sun Belt. So obviously a decorated resume for that Sun Belt Conference there at Arkansas State. He did sign with an NFL team in 2021, the Detroit Lions, as an undrafted free agent, but he was waived before the regular season began. From there, he was drafted in the 15th round of the USFL draft in 2022 by the New Orleans Breakers. He played there for 2 years, and then he was drafted in the 2024 season by the Memphis Showboats. He has played there for the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025. And in his most recent season, he recorded 34 catches for 443 yards, both led the team, and 2 touchdowns. So, John Adams is his play style. He's a downfield threat. So think of that, like, tall, heavy, physical receiver. He excels at the jump ball and with catches in traffic. 6'3", 220 pounds, physical player, dependable and consistent. So think of that dude. You leave him on the outside. You send him on vertical routes, pretty much all game, deep routes, and you're trying to get him one-on-one. You get him one-on-one with the corner, and he's sitting down there by himself on an island. You toss that ball up, and he turns a 50-50 ball into a 70-30 ball. That's the type of player he is. He's just going to go up there, and he's just going to manhandle the defense. He's gonna out physical them, right? So he's gonna push and shove and do what he needs to do and get up over the top and just bully the DB that's covering him. So I guess more of the downsides of his game: relatively low scoring volume. I mean, only 2 touchdowns last year, and I think only 2 touchdowns the year before that. So he kind of could have just been the Memphis Showboats. They weren't really a particularly world-beating team last year. So could have just been the quarterback play, the overall team play there that led to the low touchdowns. He did have a lot back in college, so maybe we could get him back to those numbers. But it's still something to call out. He's not really known for his route running or ability to get open against man coverage. Like I said, he's more of that deep ball threat who's going to go up and go over the top. So can he beat dudes on a 5-yard slant? Can he beat dudes on a 10-yard in route, right? Or, something other than a vertical route where he has to get over top. Because he can beat the dudes when they're close, but can he get open so it's an easy throw? So, yeah, just to summarize Jonathon Adams there, again, obviously, I put him on this list because I think he would be a great addition to the team. I think you have that solid number 1 right receiver. You have him out on the outside. He can just beat those just turn those 50-50 balls, like I said earlier, into a 70-30. you need a big time play in a big time moment, just heave the ball down there. F it. Adams is down there somewhere, right? He's going to get up and he's going to get the ball and he's going to make a big time play. So obviously I would love to have him on the team. I think he'd be a great addition to the Orlando Storm as a wide receiver. But yeah, man, I think that's all I got. This is a lot shorter video. I didn't want to get too in depth on these guys. Obviously it's not like I've poured hours and hours and hours doing film study on these guys. Just rough, real quick surface level information over who was available on these three teams, and I found these three guys. And again, if there's obviously not a lot of content out, so I might do this type of video again with three new players also from these three teams, and just kind of keep going deeper and deeper into who's available and who we could possibly see on the Orlando Storm next year. But I mean, without further ado, thank y'all for tuning in again. If y'all haven't already, like and subscribe. Follow me on all the socials, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Go Storm. Surge on.